Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. I, 71 female, have a son, 42 male. He married a woman, 41 female, 3 years ago after 7 months of dating. His wife came with a daughter, 18 female. I was against the relationship from the start and expressed this repeatedly to my son. He didn't listen since he has always been hopeless in that regard. For one, I thought the leap from dating to marriage was way too soon, and I have always found her obnoxious. Also, the fact that she quit her minimum wage job soon after the wedding did little to endear me to her. It was clear that she just wanted a financially stable guy to take care of all her needs, along with her daughter. My family is affluent and has always been a target for gold diggers. So, daughter-in-law and I have never seen eye to eye. Our conflict stems back to the first time daughter-in-law introduced me as a grandma to her child. It took me by surprise, and I was a little upset that they would spring that on me out of the blue. It was never discussed that I'd play the grandparent role to her child, who was already 14 years old by the time we met. Besides, I also had no intention of playing grandma to a random kid. I was content with the 3 grandchildren from my daughters. When the opportunity presented itself, I told them I didn't want to play grandma to the child. Daughter-in-law called me horrible because her kid deserved a grandmother since she had none. I straight out told her that was not my problem. That didn't go over nicely with her, and since then she has been unbearable, to the point that the rest of the family only keeps low contact with her. Recently though, my son brought up the matter of his stepdaughter's college education over tea. He said they had set up a small fund for her and asked if I would be willing to fill up the rest. He added that this would be my first grandchild going to college and it would be a big moment. I was shocked by that statement. I emphasized that their daughter is not my grandchild, as I had been telling them for years. My son then accused me of playing favorites. Since I had already gifted college funds to my 3 grandchildren at birth, I said no and stuck to it. He huffed and left. Yesterday was my second oldest grandson's 7th birthday. It was a large party. They had invited everybody, friends and family and whoever else could make it. At one point during the party, daughter-in-law gathered everyone together and announced the university her daughter had gotten into. Then she turned to me and thanked me for fully funding the college tuition, something I had never agreed to. It was an emotional speech. She went on about how nice it was to be accepted and to find a family like ours, how wonderful I was to do this for her daughter, and how they would appreciate it for the rest of their lives. The speech tagged at the heartstrings if you had no idea of what was happening behind the scenes. It received heartfelt applause from most people. I, on the other hand, was frozen on the spot, and the other relatives who knew my stance on this whole debacle were the same, except they stared at me. I knew what my daughter-in-law and son were doing, trying to twist my arm in public into going along with their whims. I stared at them in shock, hoping to communicate my disbelief and displeasure. Eventually, I got up and cleared the air. I told everyone that I had never promised anything. In fact, we had never discussed my funding of any of our college expenses at all. My revelation was met with awkward silence. Daughter-in-law finally broke down and asked why I kept treating her daughter as second class. Was blood that important? Didn't I have a heart to just love people who truly wanted to be family? Then she played the pity card, told everyone that she and her daughter had suffered for most of their life and just wanted to belong. Her outburst painted me as the mean one, so I left. A few people have reached out and asked me to reconsider. What are a few $1,000s in the face of family peace and unity? The rest of the family has been silent. Am I the a-hole? It's my money, and I don't think I should be manipulated into giving it to someone I don't want to give it to. Update. The comment section on my last post was flooded with eye-opening comments. Daughter-in-law's daughter is her responsibility, and I shouldn't feel bad about it. Besides, she has spent the past 3 years being obnoxious and difficult, but now that she wants something from me, she decided to change her tactics. I know they were just using those emotional statements to get to me. So, I called my son and called him and daughter-in-law out. An argument ensued. He called me an asshole for not considering his child as family. for humiliating them in front of everyone, for being so selfish with money that would help someone else. And a few other comments I decided to ignore, but not before pointing out that she isn't his child. She already has a dad that she's very close to, though he's jobless and a total waste of space. I realized I was not getting through to him, so I told him to go to hell with the rest of his family. I reminded him that daughter-in-law has been unpleasant and entitled all this while, and just finds herself in a tight spot. I owe her nothing. With that, we ended the call. Daughter-in-law later messaged me saying she was done with our relationship and that I will never see my son or granddaughter again. I didn't have the patience to remind her that her daughter is not really my granddaughter. I was relieved though. Over the years, my son has been a handful, and I was growing increasingly tired of him. One day, he might snap out of this daydream and realize he's nothing more than an ATM for his little family, and I'll not be in my corner to bail him out again. I called a few friends and family to explain my side of the story, and they actually agreed with me. I'm now getting support from most of them. I've also decided to take my daughters and their families on vacation soon. I think that's a better use for my money. I hope we can put this entire thing behind us and I can enjoy my golden years in peace. OP, you're not the a-hole. Your son and his wife went about this the wrong way when they tried to back you into a corner at the party. It's your money, not theirs. If you want to give them, that's good. But if you decide that for some reason you won't be giving them, then they should accept that and move on instead of acting entitled to the money. Do whatever you want with your money and try to enjoy your golden years in peace. Hopefully, your son and his family come around. Story 2. We hired a babysitter we've had a few times at a good rate of $20 per hour since it was only for 3 hours in our home. The babysitter is a 19-year-old woman if it matters. I think maybe the age will affect something. My wife had to rush to work in an emergency and I was already at work. The babysitter is already familiar with some of our rules, like our 3-year-old is only allowed in the living room, playroom, and dining room when eating. The babysitter, I guess, had an emergency herself and had to be on the phone for 20 minutes. For some reason, she decided to take the call outside. Her rationale was that it was private and didn't want our child to listen in. In those 20 minutes, our daughter was able to move the couch to the living room gate, scale the gate, head into the basement, and pull one of my guitars off the wall. The neck is all warped and my luthier said the neck needs to be replaced. I'm asking the babysitter to front the bill on a new guitar, not a repair or neck replacement, as the alternatives diminish the value of the guitar. Mismatching neck to body severely impacts value. And a neck repair does too. It's $2,200. Am I the asshole here? Or is she? Her parents are telling us we're responsible. She's offering only to have babysat for free. Our friends are saying we're too harsh. But it was her responsibility, right? OP, I think this situation is the reason for you to stop hiring her as your babysitter. But asking a 19-year-old to pay you $2,200 for something that was ultimately destroyed by your child is too much. She failed in her duty to supervise your child, so you're justified in not hiring her again. But other than that, how can you possibly expect her to pay you all that? It's just unreasonable, as is the fact that you're not asking her to repair your guitar, you're asking her for a new guitar. That's so out of the line. You are the a-hole. Now for some comments. I'm not sure the babysitter should have left the kid alone, but you're the a-hole. Shit happens. She wouldn't be babysitting for you if she had that kind of cash laying around. I would be more pissed if the kid was able to get to the basement and move a couch. More importantly, is your kid a bodybuilder that moving a couch is a feat for him? To recap, you have every right to be frustrated, but you're the a-hole for trying to get the babysitter to pay for something your kid damaged. Fire the babysitter, but a toddler didn't warp that guitar. A toddler could have broken it, snapped it in two, and stomped it to pieces, but they couldn't have warped it in 20 minutes. That guitar was stored improperly long enough for it to warp. Wrong temperature, humidity, and/or positioning most likely. It's possible OP didn't notice the damage until the toddler pulled it down. Assuming the rest of the story is true, but that's no one's fault but their own. However, since OP obviously doesn't know how to properly store valuable instruments, it's possible they don't know that they're the cause of the damage and honestly believe their own story. Story 3. I never had a mother, not because of any unfortunate reasons, but my father just adopted me. 34 male today, 3 years old at the time. As a single dad and never married. He was an awesome father and I'm so proud of him for so many reasons. His dating habits, not one of them. To be blunt, Dad used to be a serious philanderer. My entire life growing up was a revolving door of women, always aged between 19 to 26. They always ended more or less for the same reason after a few months. But then came Cleo. When I was 26, Dad met Cleo, 21 at the time. I don't know what it was about her, but they worked. I swear on my shiny espion that she's the longest, healthiest relationship he's ever been in. They're still together, and given that my dad really doesn't have a lot, I'm skeptical to believe it's anything but genuine. Here's the thing, I've never had a mother figure. I've also always got along really well with Cleo. She's one of my dearest friends. It was Christmas around year 3 of their relationship, I think, when I went through the checklist of what I had always wanted from a mother, and when I realized she pretty much hit all of the checks. She respected my boundaries, was kind, supportive, took a healthy interest, etc. So one day, more as a joke than anything, I called her Mum. It just sort of kept. It's become a term of endearment as much as it is a nickname, and I've been calling her Mum ever since. Well, the other day, my 3-year-old son called Cleo Grandma, and my wife, 36 female, did not like it. She took me aside later and told me it was time I stopped calling Cleo Mum, because it's now confusing our kid. She also said it's not right to be calling someone so much younger than me Mum in the first place, and admitted to me she's never been comfortable with it. Thinking it's gross, I wanted to make it clear I started dating my wife after I started calling Cleo Mum. I told my wife that there is no harm in it, that her not liking it is her problem. I also made it clear that I wasn't going to stop calling Cleo something I've been calling her for the past 45 years, just because she wasn't comfortable with it. And her being younger than me has nothing to do with the reason I call her Mum. Well, this has become a serious argument now, and I've been called a massive a-hole by my wife for deliberately and knowingly continuing to do something she doesn't like this much. My wife actually got Cleo involved. She thinks that it's not worth sacrificing my relationship with my wife. Dad thinks we're both a-holes for how we're handling it, but also neither of us are a-holes for our reasons. Guys, OP. A lot of kids have different names for their different grandparents. Just because you call Cleo Mom, that doesn't necessarily mean your kids need to default to calling her grandma, unless you've been referring to her as a grandma to or around your child. Maybe your wife would be satisfied if you kept calling her Mom, but your child had a different endearing term for her, differentiating her from other unrelated adults. You can try to talk to her about it, and if she still doesn't like it, then she probably actually doesn't like you calling Cleo Mom, and you two might have to go to counseling about it, so she can understand why it means so much to you to call her that. Now for some comments.